let's hurry up and talk to Joe Rotella, who's here with tools galore,
And
because we are going to make something. I know.
Love tools. You know, I like to make 3D things, and you can make stuff out of wood, but then I have to have big boards are expensive and big tools and sand it and finish it. So instead, I've been working with foam. It's so light and it's easy to work with. So we're going to make a clock.
And if we look at that clock, by the way, which you've brought, which is so beautiful, I did think it was wood until I went to pick it up. And again, you were right. It was so unbelievably light. I thought I was superhuman strong.
Easy to hang then, easy to ship. So we're going to take a piece of foam, and first thing we're going to do is trace a pattern. And in this case, I found an owl coloring book page, and I cut it out and just traced it with a marker, and we're good to go. I did the same thing with the eyes and the little tiny wings, and I marked where I want the clock center to go. The next thing we need to do is cut it. So we're going to go over here to a hot wire cutter. We're not going to need a straight edge, so we can just take this off for now.
Okay.
Turn it on. And this is going to heat up to close to 400 degrees. And cut this just like butter.
Wow.
So why don't you give it a shot? Now don't touch that wire.
Oh my gosh, I'm scared, I have to say.
Now,
okay, how close to the line? Oh my gosh, this does go through here super easy. How close to the line do I need to go?
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Is there any speed rules or anything like that?
You just don't want to force it so you bend the wire. It's like sewing where you let the machine pull it through. And you know, if you get tired, just pull off to the edge and start again.
Okay, so you don't want to stop or pause anywhere. You want to keep going. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Joe, there's no rules here, and you know how I like that.
Now just pull off to the edge.
Pull off to the edge.
And you're all done. Now, I said this was 400 degrees,
yes.
right? Watch when we turn it off. We count to about 2, 1, 2, cold.
Oh my gosh, that's
Isn't that
are you
cool?
serious? Now I'm scared. Oh my,
it's totally cool.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So I've got one already cut out and marked. How about you make his little tiny wings and finish your owl, and I'm going to drill a hole for where the clock piece goes. Now I have a clock mechanism, and the challenge is figuring out what size hole you need to drill to support this. So I have a little gauge, and this is one of my favorite tools to have in the workshop, because anytime I'm trying to figure out what size hole I need for a project, here I'm all done and I know what size bit to use. So I've already loaded that bit. I'm not going to use the vise or anything, so just take all this out. If we drill it without a platform, there's nothing supporting that foam, and it'll just collapse through the little hole. So if I put a piece of wood here, it's going to support the foam while I drill. I'll fire up the drill, line it up, go nice and slow till we hit the wood underneath. And we have the perfect hole for our clock piece. And now we're ready to go ahead and paint it. I knew I wanted to use stencils on this, and I have a hard time deciding how to mix these different colors. So here's a little tip. Take the main color you're going to work with. In this case, I've got turquoise. And I'm going to put a whole bunch out there. I think
I need some practice, by the way, because I did cut them out and it was super easy, but they're not exactly straight. Is that going to be okay? They look a little handmade by Julie.
It's
there
organic.
You go. It's organic.
It does take a little bit of practice. And the other thing I found is you let your hands support it on the platform. Your whole arms are too much. So you'll get the hang of it. Now paint-wise here.
Oh no, I have to practice.
You have to practice.
It sounds like fun though to practice. I love that.
You can't have my wire cutter. So I've taken and mixed a little bit of a dark color and a lighter color into my primary color. And as long as I just play with these 5 colors, I'm sure that everything's going to look good together, because they're all based on that same turquoise.
So I know when we come out of like a very, very traditional art place, they talk about it as tinting, toning, and shading. But basically all that means is taking a single color and then lightening, darkening it, depending on what you mix in with it.
Yeah, and there we're done. We now have 5 colors to play with that are always going to work together. So we need to paint our whole owl.
Now, normally when you paint foam, I know that it can the paint eats it, or you need to coat it, base coat it with something, but you said we're using a special smooth surface.
Look at this surface. It's so smooth. It doesn't have all the craters. And notice when we cut it, it didn't crumble apart. Even these little pieces, there's no crumbling.
Right.
So now we can go ahead and stencil and just choose a stencil that we want to put on there. I used a sponge, and maybe we want this little bit of a lighter color. And again, we're not trying to go for perfection here. You know, it's just stenciling, and the more layers, the better. So there's how we could do the whole body. You just keep going and going and going. The other thing I wanted darker eyes. So I cut the eyes out of paper, but rather than use the eyes, I'm just using the cutout. And then I can put the darker color in there.
Cool.
When we're all done with all our pieces, it just becomes a matter of assembly, and it goes together with just glue, just a white glue.
Okay, so now I want to ask you a couple questions because I want to be able to do this myself. I'm empowering myself here. So here are my questions. Painting the edges, do you use the same tools and brushes and everything to do that?
Same brushes.
Okay, and then when you're layering this all together, do you, so for instance, are you stenciling this part underneath and then gluing this on top?
I did.
Okay.
Just because I wanted that darker outline here. And to be honest, it happened as a happy mistake. Because originally I thought, ooh, I'll put this on and then I'll glue this on top. But then that was really, didn't fit the tone or the whole rest of the project. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute, I've made my own stencil.
That is a really cool idea. And now when you have the hole here, obviously, that the clock mechanism is gonna go into it, so we don't have to worry about putting any paint in there. And in fact, since you sized it so perfectly, you might not wanna put paint in there.
Absolutely. And then some other little tricks for the belly or the clock part. I really wanted that, you know, the round shape you think of with a clock, but I didn't want the hands, but I didn't want to put numbers. I found a stencil that was just perfect for the round shape.
Yeah, you know, I think we should actually stencil a little, and I'll notice, so this is a foam that you have that actually has two sides. There's a hard foam applicator on it, and then there's a soft foam. And now you use the hard foam, I know, for your initial stenciling. Personally, I've always found that the soft foam, if I may, does a slightly better job. And again, I want to dab off on there so I don't have a lot of paint, because that's going to give me the most accurate kind of stenciling that I want to have here, okay? So then, in fact, and if you want, and if you don't care and you want more of a smeary look, then of course you can pull it across and you get more of a kind of smeared look. And you know, of course, the thing that I like crafting with friends is you teach me about how to use a hot wire cutter, and I teach you a little bit about stenciling, and then I get to take home the clock
I was going to
with me.
say, no matter how nice you are, you can't have my cutter. Now, the other thing was to think about eyes for this particular thing, and I love thrift stores, junk stores, flea markets. I'm at them all the time, and I found that old jewelry can be the perfect eyes.
That is a great tip, and I see you brought a couple other projects with you too. We have some cute little painted owls going with the theme. You could have a whole owl theme going there, of course. And then you have a nice little, what would you call it, a home decor piece there, the red square. Yeah, oh, steampunk.
Steampunk.
Well, that's fancy, which actually matches what you're wearing too.
Now, if you keep working on those owls and wings, I could get this done, and I'll keep stenciling.
I know, we can make them for everyone,
There
right?
you go.